This is a gnome. Hey, can we pull the camera in a little bit? Ah, there we go. Look at that bald, baby-faced, weird-looking little big-eared thing.
Hello!
Let's cut away from this before I vomit. Of course, on the opposite end of the spectrum is the noble Tauren. Large and in charge, the Tauren is just simply a million times better than the gnomes, obviously. Unsurprisingly, gnomes are the shortest playable race in WoW, and Taurens are the largest playable race in WoW. Fun fact, a Tauren is almost exactly 3.5 gnomes tall. 1, 2, 3, and a half. But what would happen if gnomes and Taurens changed size? Let's start by making a gnome as tall as a Tauren. Brace yourselves. I never realized how disturbing the gnome dance is until I scaled it up. As disturbing as giant gnomes are, tiny Tauren are on the opposite end of that spectrum. That's the dang cutest thing I've seen all day. Let's follow this tiny Tauren for a while.
Need more rage. I can't.
Not bad, tiny Tauren, not bad. Let's check in on our Tauren-sized gnome. To be honest, the oversized gnome looks pretty badass. As Daft Punk would say, we can make this gnome. Now let's see what this giant-sized gnome can do. Unfortunately, a giant-sized gnome isn't really meant for modern society. As you can see, there's some problems for the gnome, and even Ironforge can't really contain him. I really don't want to give Blizzard any ideas for Classic WoW, but I'm just saying, I would pay a little extra for a permanent Tiny Tauren as a playable race. I'm really sold on this Tiny Tauren. I could go on for days gushing over the Tiny Tauren, but everything about it, the animation, on its little Kodo mount, it's so good that it makes me almost wish Tauren were always this small. It really does. It's too cute. And I really just want this to be what I think of when I think of a Tauren from now on. It's just the cutest freaking thing, and then I make him even tinier, and now I've got a 10% sized Tauren. And look at him just try to interact with stuff. Look what he's trying to do. And look what he does on the chair. I mean, it's cuter than a tiny gnome, or a normal sized gnome, and it's just great. And look at the wyvern, look at the wind rider. This tiny Tauren, this is what's convincing me that there need to be changes in Classic WoW. And this is the kind of change that I want to see. And here's the answer to the question you've always wondered the answer to. What does a gnome look like at 100 times its normal size? For scale, we've got Nordrassil, the World Tree, hanging out. So obviously the World Tree is still larger, even when the gnome is mounted. But that Mechanostrator looks really like something out of a Godzilla film to me, and it's kind of cool in its own way. Now don't worry too much, we're done looking at the gnome for this video, and we're going to move back to our Tauren. But he's not so tiny anymore. That's right, folks. Our tiny Tauren has all grown up and is about 18 times a normal Tauren size, which puts him pretty close to the size of Ragnaros himself. Of course, I couldn't let Ragnaros get away without facing the wrath of the tiny Tauren, and I want this to be a thing. Blizzard, if you're out there, make this the official size of Tauren. Make all Tauren, no matter what, this size, 1/10 of the scale of a normal Tauren. And let's get some raids. Let's get some 40-man classic WoW Tauren only, tiny Tauren only raids in Molten Core, and let's see this in action. A man can dream, right? As one final size change, we've moved our Tauren back to normal size, but we've made Ragnaros roughly equal in size as a Tauren, and it certainly takes away a lot of the looming threat of Ragnaros when he's such a small, normal-sized looking fire elemental. This really puts a light on the importance of scale in Classic WoW, and really in video games in general. But just imagine Ragnaros as the final boss of Molten Core. Imagine if he was this size, the size of a Tauren. The threat wouldn't be there, the epic scale and the feeling of first seeing Ragnaros emerge wouldn't really be there. And so if there's anything you've learned from this video, it's that the little details, just the size of a model, can really change how a player can see everything about the game, either their own character or the NPCs or mobs that they meet along the way. As promised at the beginning of this video, there is a competition going on that will be a giveaway from voodoo-realm.com for a t-shirt, a hat, and a $20 Blizzard gift card. Full details for the rules are in the video description. The competition will end on June 16th, 2018, and the only thing you have to do to enter the competition is reply as a comment to this video and answer this question in 15 or fewer words. Describe your feelings on gnomes in 15 or fewer words. That's it. Describe your feelings on gnomes in 15 or fewer words. Leave it as a comment in this video. At the end of the 2-week competition, I will pick my favorite comment, and that will be the winner for the competition. But we'll make a video out of it, and I will read off some of my favorites as runner-ups. As always, this video is sponsored by Voodoo Realm. They are a maker of excellent t-shirts and accessories. You can check them out in the video description or at voodoo-realm.com.